Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, September 9th, 2022. $80 billion to the IRS. What? The recently enacted Inflation Reduction Act has many provisions to which many of us may object, but the $80 billion to the IRS is particularly upsetting. First, it's totally unnecessary. When we enact the FAIRtax, there will be a more efficient and a much fairer system that eliminates the IRS entirely. There will be no forms for individuals to file, no tax returns to fill out. We'll get our entire paycheck with no withholding, no payroll taxes. Under the FAIRtax, imports will not be rewarded at the expense of U.S. goods. Income tax lobbyists will be out of business. Special interests can no longer purchase benefits for which the rest of us have to pay. And with the FAIRtax, we take back control. We decide how much we pay in U.S. taxes. Second, the Internal Revenue Service is widely regarded as one of the least efficient of all federal agencies. The Wall Street Journal editorial entitled, "This is Your IRS," made the following points. The Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, or TIGTA, T-I-G-T-A, they had an audit that pointed out that the IRS answers only 10% of taxpayer calls and has a backlog of 17 million unprocessed tax returns. The audits reveal an agency that just can't do its basic job, but it will terrorize taxpayers whether they deserve it or not. By the IRS's own admission, some $19 billion, or 28%, of earned income tax credit payments in fiscal 2021 were, quote, improper. The amount hasn't improved despite years of IRS promises to do better. A January TIGTA audit found that an estimated 67,000 claims totaling $15.6 billion for the low-income housing tax credit from 2015 to 2019, quote, lacked or did not match supporting documentation due to potential reporting errors or non-compliance, end of quote. A September 2021 audit found that the IRS in 2020 issued 89,338 notices to taxpayers insisting that balances were owed even though the taxes were not actually due. Why? Well, because the Fed had extended the filing deadline amid COVID, but the IRS apparently didn't notice. A February audit found the IRS department responsible for ensuring retirement plan tax compliance suffered a 23% decline in the quality of its examinations from fiscal 2018 to fiscal 2020. In the past 7 months, TIGTA has issued searing reports on IRS mismanagement of everything from its partial payment program for delinquent taxpayers to its auditing of partnerships to its struggle to handle internal employee misconduct. A March 2017 report related the agency's crackdown on businesses flagged as potentially evading a law that requires financial institutions to report currency transactions exceeding $10,000. The IRS took to seizing property from its targets even before conducting interviews. TIGTA reports that even when the interviews were conducted, the IRS failed to advise the accused of their rights or the purpose of the interview and failed to consider realistic defenses or explanations. TIGTA found that most of those targeted, gas stations, jewelry stores, scrap metal dealers, restaurants, and the like, had not committed crimes, though many were never able to regain their property. They noted that this is the IRS that Democrats are now arming with more money and manpower to unleash on Americans, and the $80 billion is further proof of the rule that failure in government is invariably rewarded with a bigger budget. In conclusion, there's a story about a 95-year-old man who saw his doctor and said that his 18-year-old bride was pregnant. The doctor looked at him and said, "Let me tell you a story. A man went bear hunting, but instead of carrying a rifle, he carried an umbrella. When a bear saw the man in charge, the hunter shot the bear with his umbrella and killed it." The 95-year-old man said, "That's impossible. Somebody else must have shot the bear." The doctor smiled and said, "My point exactly." Now, blaming the IRS for the actions they take to enforce a terrible income payroll tax code is like believing that you can shoot a bear with an umbrella and kill it. The politicians and their minions must be laughing really hard. All the attacks on the IRS are diverting the public's attention from the real problem. Congress is ordering the IRS to enforce an unenforceable federal income payroll tax system. Even if the IRS became more efficient, there's no way to catch the tax cheats without also attacking the 80% of taxpayers who are honestly trying to file accurate returns and pay their taxes. With all the rhetoric about the specter of armed IRS agents coming to our doors, no one is asking the right question. Why don't we get rid of the IRS entirely by enacting the FAIRtax? The income payroll tax system is broken. It's no longer working. We can't repair it, but we can replace it with the FAIRtax. The FAIRtax will allow Americans to take back control over their government and their lives. Join us and take back control of our country and our lives, not with bullets, but with the elimination of one of the biggest threats to our liberty and economic prosperity, the income payroll tax. We should also remember Edmund Burke's warning that applies to our efforts to take back control. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. We should also remember this quote from George Orwell's 1984, which, if we do nothing, may foretell your and your children's future. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. So what can each of us do? We can write letters and make calls to our elected representatives and attend Zoom town hall meetings demanding that if they really want to allow Americans to take back control, the first step is to eliminate the income payroll tax system and enact the FAIRtax. Take back control. Help us pass the FAIRtax. The IRS will be gone and we'll pay our taxes when we make purchases. We, not the ruling class and their minions in D.C., will decide how much federal tax we pay. And we'll know how much tax we're paying because taxes will no longer be hidden from us. They'll be clearly shown on every retail receipt. If you have friends who don't know about the FAIRtax, send them to FAIRtax.org. Have them watch the whiteboards under how it works, and if they agree, ask them to please join us. Then, contact your members of Congress and the President and demand that Congress pass the FAIRtax, the only truly fair tax.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.